time for another installment of Oh My God.
Okay, well, today in the Oh My God segment, how many churches emphasize serving the poor as much as the Bible itself? I'm going to say not too many, right? Instead, it seems the loudest Christians today have infected our culture with the idea that somehow capitalism, no matter what the results, equals holiness. And in the results of capitalism, no matter how brutal, are always moral. They preach the gospel of commerce. And that when Jesus told us to serve our fellow man, he didn't mean volunteer at homeless shelters or directly help someone who was down and out. No, what Jesus meant was that we need to set up unregulated markets that concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and then let the help and aid trickle down to the widows and orphans. That's exactly what Jesus meant.
Yeah, his problem with the money changers was that they were too regulated.
He was a big advocate of supply-side Christianity.
Very much so, very much so. But enter Bud Pilgrim. Who is he? Well, he's sick of all this be in service to your fellow man talk that people have been doing lately.
Buddy Pilgrim is unstuck in time.
Buddy Pilgrim or Bud Pilgrim. He's the head of the Integrity Leadership, called Integrity Leadership, a nonprofit Christian ministry he founded in 1998 specifically to teach God's work for the workplace, God's word for the workplace. He teaches biblical principles of leadership, business management, and financial successes applicable to every Christian in the workplace. What he really does is give Christians an excuse to be greedy and not help the least among us. Here he is when he lets us know that important dates in our nation's history are being corrupted by do-gooders who use those dates for a call for service to our fellow man. Think I'm kidding?
September 11th has been turned into a national day of service instead of a day to commemorate what happened.
Yes. Which is a sneaky way of letting the Muslims off the hook. We all know that. Okay, here we go.
This past Martin Luther King's Day was talked about as a day of service. Well, Martin Luther King didn't march on the mall for a day of service. He marched on equality, where people would be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin.
Yes, and anybody who knows anything about Martin Luther King knew he was totally opposed to any kind of personal sacrifice.
Yes.
He was totally against that. I mean, all this. All right, we'll keep going.
And all this talk about service kind of sounds good on the surface, but it's really all about collectivism. And it's elevating volunteerism. There's nothing wrong with volunteerism. I believe in volunteering. But we've reached this point where we demonize people who go out and earn a living, and we elevate those who volunteer and don't do anything. And I would say this is it really?
Yeah, first of all, let me just say, all this talk about service, it really is code for collectivism, and that's how the left suckers you into caring about other people.
Yes.
See? Crafty. And it's a slippery slope. First you start caring about other people, then you start helping them, and pretty soon you're making the world a better place. Where does it end? Exactly. How do you get from volunteerism to collectivism? He does it in one declarative sentence. So I guess that's all you have to do. Just say one thing and then say another thing, right? It's like, how this whole going to college, you know what it's all about? Veganism. It really is. Okay, so there's more to this guy. Ready? It gets better. He picks up. He's getting ahead of steam.
Those who volunteer and don't do anything. And I would say this is it really more noble? What is more noble? To go out one Saturday a couple of times a year and work the food line at the homeless shelter? Or to risk your capital and to invest your intellect and your labor and your hard work to start a business that will employ the person that is at the homeless shelter so that they can provide for themselves and their family with dignity?
Thank God for businessmen.
Thank God for businessmen.
If everybody had the courage not to help the homeless, it wouldn't be so appealing to go hungry and sleep in the street. That's what he's saying.
I don't remember if that's from the Old or the New Testament portion of Atlas Shrugged.
Jesus, had he not been executed by capital punishment, he and the apostles were planning an IPO that they never got around to.
Well, I think, if you think back to the miracle of the loaves and fishes, what happened was Jesus was preaching, people got hungry. So what he did was he took a loaf and a fish from someone who had brought some, and then he opened a fish and bread stand, and then he, just charged the standard 33% markup so he could cover costs and just get a modest profit. That's all he did, right? Isn't that what he did? That's how you do it.
And also, don't forget his seminar on wealth on the Mount.
That's right. And don't forget the Good Samaritan, right? So when the story of the Good Samaritan, Jews and Samaritans are supposed to hate each other, and there was an injured Jew on the
You
side.
mean Sumerians?
No, Samaritan.
Samaritan.
Oh, okay.
They were supposed to hate each other, and there was an injured Jew on the side of the road, and then the other Jewish people just went right past him. But the Samaritan stopped and helped. And what in this guy's version of the Bible, what the Samaritan would have done was stopped, called some investors, opened up an ambulance company, and then maybe the ambulance company would have some charity workers that would come and pick this guy up. That's how Jesus wants it to work. You idiots.
I love the way he says we've elevated volunteers in this country. You know how we've elevated them. You know that volunteer show on the E! Network? That's all like, you know how we're celebrating volunteers all the time?
Oh, sure. And we need to stop.
And
Yeah.
don't forget what Jesus said on the cross. Forgive them. They know not how to invest.
Exactly. You know, what's more noble, Frank, to volunteer twice a year at a homeless shelter or to start a business that's so successful it buys the homeless shelter and throws the homeless out of it, right? That's
progress.
You know what would be noble? To start a business that helped a homeless person find a job. If one businessman anywhere, even once, ever gave a homeless person a job, I might listen to what this guy has to say.
Right.
Hey, you know all the business owners who go, I'm going to start a business so I can hire all the homeless.
Maybe he's tired of the jammed parking lot at the soup kitchen and tired of the empty parking lot at the mall.
That's what it is. Too many. That's right. You can't get into that homeless shelter to help out. And, not for nothing, but just so this guy knows, very few entrepreneurs actually even risk their own capital, okay? You jackass. That's actually why we have the construct of a corporation, to protect personal assets from the risks of business. I'm just saying, so if you're going to extol the virtues of small business over, let's say, being a big brother to some poor orphan, then maybe you should understand the most basic mechanism of how small businesses work. That's all. I mean, maybe that's all you need to know.
Right. Also, he doesn't like the fact that homeless shelters can't be sold as subprime mortgages.
You know what's really bizarre about this guy is that he could have made the point that entrepreneurship is vital to our society without concocting this BS division in the American zeitgeist. It's like he just threw that part in to be a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, do you think he does this with every thought he has in his head? Oh, I really like that paint color. You know who wouldn't like that color? The Iranian nuclear scientists. They wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I think everybody at this table agrees that capitalism is good and necessary, and there's free market economy is, a good thing. But why does it have to...
The false dichotomy between volunteering and starting a business.
Like they're mutually exclusive.
Like you can't, I was going to help the poor God, but I was running Microsoft. You know how that works.
This might come back to the fact that Obama was a community organizer, and they're trying to make a connection of that his secret plan is for socialism, and community organizing is the same thing as helping the homeless, maybe?
Yes, so now...
Yeah, and also community organizing is one of their things that they present as this horrible thing.
That socialism,
yes,
the other
same thing
the
as
other
socialism.
Christian principles that they somehow have managed to turn
of Jesus Christ, the original community organizer.
This has been Oh My God.